Thank you. Arigato.
The Your Own Pay Podcast Network, inspiring, motivating, and educating entrepreneurs around the world.
I'm going to start this episode by saying, fuck a bunch of wordpress.com now.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but it's time. Demasi and Michael, just talking tech.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Demasi, and we are here for DM16. And, of course, joining me, as always, is Michael. What's up, Mike?
Oh, you know, this guy had to be a smartass there. You can follow me on Twitter, PAYOWN, and he's
at Demasi, DAMASHE. So today, Mike, we're going to jump into a topic that we have been teasing and threatening and dancing around since the beginning, which is WordPress. You talk about WordPress. I talk about WordPress. We all talk about WordPress. Why? Because WordPress is awesome. But what we're going to actually focus on here today, starting in this series on WordPress, is the difference between WordPress.com and the WordPress.org self-hosted option. So, Mike, get into that. What is WordPress.com and you know, what's the difference in WordPress.com and WordPress.org?
I can talk about this topic all day long. I'll link to a episode that I did back when I was doing the solo episodes. Man, it was lonely back then with the worst audio quality. How time flies when you're having fun. Anyways, so we'll talk about WordPress.com and WordPress.org or self-hosted. When you're using WordPress.com, you're renting the privilege to publish your content on their site. So that kind of sounds a little convoluted. Let me go back to the basics and explain it to you. WordPress.com, all they do is host WordPress site. Now, they have other entities that will host backups, and they're connected with Google Apps. They're an authorized reseller of Google Apps, so they can help you get that set up as well. They also have a service called Jetpack, which is the bridge between connecting your self-hosted WordPress site to WordPress.com features. We'll talk more about that in a future episode. But mainly, WordPress.com is designed to host WordPress websites. That's all they do. And you can go set up a free account over at WordPress.com and start blogging. Maybe you'll have a website like payown.wordpress.com. Hint, hint, Thursday's episode, we are setting that up, and I'm actually going to record video content. So you'll definitely want to check that out. We'll link to it over at yourownpay.com/DM16 when it goes live. One of the features of WordPress, though, is that, like with web hosting, you can pay WordPress for additional features. Although those additional features, in my opinion, aren't worth it. You'll want to make your own determination. We'll be sure to link to the terms and conditions over at the show notes of yourownpay.com/DM16. Demasi, what is one reason that you might want to use self-hosted WordPress over WordPress.com? Because as I mentioned, WordPress is designed to host the service or the software that they produced. So why might I want to use my own self-hosted WordPress?
One word: freedom. The ability to build your site, customize it the way that you want to. And don't get me wrong, WordPress.com, paid subscriptions service, you get some customization options. I can give you a couple of big, huge, well-known, widely, worldwide recognized websites that are hosted on WordPress.com, New York Times, for example. But WordPress.org is self-hosted. You decide where you're going to host your website. So choosing your web server, choosing the company that is going to host your server. You can run your own server out of your house if you really wanted to. The other freedoms that you get are the ability to use both free and paid plugins, free and paid themes to customize the look of your site and the abilities of your site, and the freedom to advertise and monetize your website in your own way without any sort of restrictions, outside of legal restrictions, that is. So that is one reason that I personally have been a WordPress self-hosted user for the past 5 years, is because I don't want anybody dictating to me the type of content that can go on my site or the type of monetization options that I have for my site. And I really hate the word monetization, but it is what it is. It's become an industry term, right?
Exactly. And, that's a great reason to want to host your own website. My primary reason is I love what you said is you get the choice of where you host it and the plugins and the themes. And that's primarily my reason. And if you don't like the way that things are going on your website and you just want to go erase it and move things over, or if you just want to try a new web host out, or you want to install a plugin and see what it does, or you want to tinker around with your website, you're not restricted to what you can do. And my favorite feature about WordPress is it's completely customizable, at least when you're self-hosting it. And I'm the type that likes to tinker. If that's not you, maybe self-hosted WordPress isn't the right. Maybe going with wordpress.com is something you should explore. Although we'll talk more about hosting in next week's episode. But if you're not the type that likes to tinker, then there are options available for you.
Such as, again, wordpress.com is an option. If you just need a very basic, simple website and you just want to focus on uploading your content, that is an option. Another option that is available if you're not a tinkerer, but you still want some freedom of use and design and customization of your site, is to hire somebody else to do the tinkering and building and designing for you.
Exactly. Or connect on a forum or message board with people and say, hey, what have you found to work for what you're trying to accomplish? And speaking of that, Demasi, we've got something special we want to offer the people before we conclude this week's episode.
Absolutely. And what we want to offer you all is going over to the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM16 and signing up, and we're going to send you a free PDF giving you my top 5 and Michael's top 5 plugins that we install on every WordPress site that we build or design or manage or whatever the case may be. And we're going to make sure that those are not duplicated. So, my top 5 is going to be different from his top 5, even though, probably 2 of his top 5 are also, would be in my top 5 as well. But we're going to share those with you for free. All you need to do is go over to yourownpay.com/DM16. Drop your email, your first name and your email into the form and hit submit, and you will get that PDF instantly.
I love automation. So, Demasi, we know that hosting our own WordPress site gives us freedom. Having the managed services of WordPress.com might be easier for other individuals. But if you're truly building a business online and you're looking to turn your WordPress site or your website, because ultimately, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of our listeners are looking to do that, is use their website to build a business, you're going to want the flexibility of being able to install plugins or connect to third-party services that allow you to capture people's information. WordPress.com does have some integrations with email marketing services and podcast hosts and other third-party products and services. But when you're hosting your own WordPress website, you can integrate with any service and do whatever you want with your website. Build a membership site or capture leads like we're able to do, and build out your own podcast websites. So having full control, full freedom, and the ability to do what you want with your website are the 3 reasons that we like WordPress.org. Demasi, do you have anything else you want to add before we conclude this episode?
Hey, just make sure you go over to yourownpay.com/DM16. Get your free PDF giving you 10 major plugins that you should have installed on a WordPress site. My top 5, Michael's top 5. And of course, as always, you can reach out to us on Twitter. I'm at Damashe, DAMASHE, and he's at
Payon, PAYOWN. And we'll talk to you next week about web hosting options.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.